So my name is Mark Arn with Goddard Consulting. We're the environmental consultants that filed the MEPA application for Madalene Village before the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency. And this purpose of this meeting is to provide the public with the opportunity to hear what's been filed with MEPA, to provide their ability to ask questions, and also to make sure that the public is fully aware of the ability to comment directly to MEPA on the project as MEPA reviews the project and what's proposed. With me tonight is Rich Withington, the builder, and then Amanda Calvier and Dale McKinnon from Gary & Helna. They're the design civil engineers. The reason why we're before MEPA is because we have an alteration of more than 500 linear feet of inland bank, which is allowed under MEPA, but it does require their review. Project history: the project had an Order of Resource Area Delineation, or ORAD, issued by the Franklin Conservation Commission. That permit was basically defining the wetland resource areas on the property so that the commission and the applicant understood and agreed this is where the wetland resource areas are, this is where the buffer zone is, and that way the applicant can move forward with any proposals of projects knowing that the commission recognized where the wetland resource areas were. The project also filed a 40B comprehensive permit with the Franklin Zoning Board of Appeals, which was approved, and that was for under the 40B Mass Law. And then we filed a notice of intent with the Franklin Conservation Commission. During that process, we did have peer review from a wetlands consultant as well as a stormwater peer reviewer hired by the commission to do the design. The commission decided to deny the project based on the concern that we were not allowed to alter more than 500 linear feet of bank. The applicant has filed a superseding order of conditions request with Mass DEP because we know that it is possible to complete this type of alteration, and we believe the alteration is actually a benefit to the resource areas itself. So that filing of that permit with Mass DEP triggered the work with MEPA for the bank alteration of greater than 500 linear feet. And we did do a pre-filing consultation with MEPA's office in June, and that purpose was to just ensure that we were going to provide MEPA the general scope of what MEPA wanted to see in the application, so that way we could limit the comments that MEPA may have in the future. The project site is 3.5 acres. It's mostly undeveloped forested land. There's a lot of non-native trees and very dense invasive shrubs. In some areas it's impassable from the dense multiflora rose, which is a pretty bad invasive shrub in the area. The intermittent stream that's on site was channelized in the early 1900s. It's well armored with stones on both sides. Upgrading of that stream, there's also a non-jurisdictional drainage ditch which just receives stormwater from the local streets and the athletic park. And then the site is also surrounded by dense housing and a 13-acre athletic park and playground known as Fletcher Field. This is an ortho view photo of the project site with the red outlining it, so you can see that the fields are to the southeast of the project, and then Cottage Street to the north and Peck Street to the west. The project scope is an affordable 40B housing development, so the goal here is to provide affordable housing in the town of Franklin, which doesn't currently meet the percent that the state wants to have for affordable housing in each town. 32 units are arranged among 11 multi-unit buildings. This was a decrease from 40 units, which was originally proposed. Two-story units, they fit into the neighboring housing, so we're not proposing large buildings. The relocated stream is actually going to be longer than the current stream. It's going to have more of a sinuous curve and actually provides a significant improvement because we're actually planting native trees and shrubs along the edge of that bank versus right now there's invasives, pretty dense. The site is located within 1/2 mile of the fire station, and it's also immediately adjacent to the recreational fields, Fletcher Field and Pisani Field. From a project impact review standpoint, there's traffic was studied, and the conclusion was there's just a minor impact. There's only 32 units. This was peer reviewed by Stantec for the town of Franklin under the ZBA. Public transportation access, we're within walking distance of the MBTA rail station, which is great for people using the commuter rail system versus driving their own cars. From relocating and improving the stream, we have an improved bank with native trees and shrubs that improves wildlife habitat, adds stormwater filtration, increases the aesthetic values, and we also do replicate a small section of bordering vegetated wetlands, which is impacted along the edge of the bank. From a greenhouse gas emission standpoint, there's a minimal change. You have 32 units, so from a sense of volume of cars in the neighborhood, it's minimal. The app builder is working on adding additional improvements in the sense of doing electric heat and each of the units are going to have electric car hookups in the garage built in already, so you don't have to put in that infrastructure yourself. Stormwater standpoint, the project meets the Mass DEP stormwater standards, which is the standards that require that the project does not increase flooding or peak rates of flow from the site or onto abutting properties. The project was also peer-reviewed by Beta, which is a private consultant that was hired by the town of Franklin to review the stormwater design. They had several letters, and Gary and Hannah went through and addressed those comments that Beta may have had about the standards. And so from that standpoint, we believe that we've met the standards, and we also believe that Beta agreed that those standards were met. Climate change, adaptation, and resiliency strategies. There's minimal traffic increase. We comply with Mass DEP stormwater standards, and we have an increase and improved natural resource area on the property. We are located within an environmental justice population as mapped by MEPA. From an impact standpoint, there's short-term impacts from traffic, which you would get from any type of construction project, but that's minimal, and once the project's done, there's no more impacts there. We have an improved wetland resource area with a restored stream that's longer and functioning at a higher quality than the current conditions. We also mitigate it with landscaping and green space and shade trees. And lastly, we provide additional affordable housing in the town of Franklin, which again is being encouraged by the state. This is the project with Cottage Street to the west, northwest, I should say, in the upper left portion of your screen there. This site connects Cottage Street down to Peck Street, which is on the east side of the site. The stream wraps around the bottom edge of the site there. It goes up to 1,200 linear feet versus the current 869 linear feet. So you have an increased linear feet of stream on site. The proposal has a detailed planting plan and monitoring plan, which involves wetland scientists supervising the work to ensure that the work is done in a friendly ecological manner and according to Mass DEP replication and stream standards. The plan includes dense trees and shrubs along the banks, which again, currently the banks are heavily infested with invasives. In addition, we did provide a very detailed erosion control plan and phasing plan on how the stream would be relocated and constructed to ensure that one, the stream was not impacted during, the existing stream wasn't impacted while we relocated the stream, and to ensure that we were able to have clean flow through the stream that's restored to ensure that we do not impact any areas downstream from the site. And again, that's all supervised by a professional wetland scientist. This is some photos from the site. This is the east-facing view of the stream between the proposed development and Fletcher's Field. This is the drainage ditch looking to the east. This is the woods up to the west of that drainage ditch, and more woods on the east end of the site looking north. This is the upgrading end of the jurisdictional stream. Underneath the shrubs on the right side of the photo is a stormwater outlet from the athletic fields from the town drainage that dumps directly into the stream. This is the south side of the stream looking west. Another picture of the south side stream looking west. We're walking to the west as those two photos were taken. This is the picture showing the small fringe BVW. There's the blue flags there. It's a very small area, basically, of collapsed bank right along the edge of the stream with not very high values. The lower end of the stream here, you can see the actual nature of the armored bank here on the right side of the stream and the left side. You can see the stones were there. Again, this was channelized in the 1900s as a straight stream, which isn't natural or functioning to what you would see in a normal stream system. This is looking downgraded of the stream, looking west downstream. This is right along the edge of the property line. Again, to the left, you can see another town drainage culvert dumping water into the stream itself. This is the north side of the stream. You can see the dense invasive multiflora rose shrubs. You can see it's basically impassable in this area. You don't see many sites that are this dense. This is the southeast corner of the site looking northwest. Another southeast corner of that looking northwest again. This is the southeast corner looking north. Another photo here. So if you desire to submit comments to MEPA, the best way is going to be to email them directly to jenniferhughes@mass.gov. If you have any issues or concerns about getting those comments up there, my email is also up here, mark@goddardconsultingllc.com. I'm glad to help you there. This QR code, which I'll leave up is a link that takes you right to the public landing. You scroll through the projects before MIPA, find Madalene Village, and you'll be able to post comments directly online that MIPA will review as they take into consideration the project itself. So that's the end of the public presentation that we have. Again, glad so many of you took time to come tonight, and I'm glad to take any questions. So on the engineer and builder are also here. And if you have a question, I'd encourage you to come use the mic. That way we can get it. Everybody can hear the question.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Margaret Hurd. I live on the border there, which is called Cottage Court.
Okay.
I can't see Cottage Court on there, but maybe it is up there. It's a dirt road.
Yeah, it's just to the right of the north arrow. So your Cottage Court, just for context, is right here. You can see a little bit of it right here. This is a dirt road here, and this is Cottage Court right there.
Okay, so this is my home right here.
Okay.
What is your plan for the neighbors that live down there for fencing?
Fencing. I don't think there's any proposed fencing proposed. I don't think there was an issue under the ZBA. So I don't think we have any fencing proposed along the property lines. I know there's some existing fencing out there along the property lines, but I don't think we have anything that's proposed.
If I remember correctly from the zoning board meetings, it was going to be 17 feet off my property line versus 20. There was going to be fencing included and trees planted, and I didn't hear any of that in your plan.
So there are landscape trees. I did mention the shade trees very quickly, but there are trees and landscaping along the road which are proposed. I don't know if I have the plan on this presentation, but I can definitely pull up the hard copy of it if needed. I'll just jump out of this. So just pardon me for one moment. Okay. Where is it? There it is. So this is the site development plans. These are the drainage profiles. So here's the landscaping plan. So there are trees proposed along the property line here. You can see them here. There's also trees along the roadway and between units. Some further trees here. More trees along the back here as well. There's going to be a retaining wall here with some fence in this section here. But I believe that's the only fence that I'm seeing on the plan that's.
Between the Fletcher Field and
Okay. Yes, you are. Yeah. So I think this must be the fence that's proposed right here. Right here. So there is a fence along the edge of Fletcher Field.
That's not where I am.
Yeah, I understand. So and it looks like, Rich, I'm sorry, I wasn't part of the ZBA process, so I'm looking to Rich here. It looks like, Rich, I see a fence. These circle dots, I think, is a fence here. It comes down here, turns here, and then runs down along here and ends right here.
Can you go back to that for a moment, please?
Yeah, hold on. I'm just double checking the detail. Let's see if I can see it there. So.
The fence you're referring to on there is my fence.
Yeah, there's a fence here. That you see the X is here. That's the existing fence.
That's the existing fence, which is mine.
Yep. And then this circle, the line with the circles here, that is, I believe, a new fence that runs along this edge of your property right here.
So there will be a new fence.
Along this side, that's what's on this plan.
But not on the back side of my property.
Correct.
And yet the plan that was presented to zoning board said you're cutting from 20 feet down to 17, and there would be a fence along with plantings.
So I'm not aware of that exact language that was at the meeting, so I'd have to look at the meeting minutes to see what that actual comment was. But this is what is on the plan that I know of.
So since the percentage of 40B in Franklin has increased since the zoning board gave you the permit, is there a possibility the zoning board can revoke that permit because the 40B percentage has now been exceeded?
I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to answer that question on how the ZBA can handle the issuing or rescindance of a permit. That would be a question for the zoning board. So I don't want to say anything else beyond that. I don't think it's possible, but that's the limited knowledge that I have. So I'm not an attorney. So that may be a question for the ZBA's office.
Okay.
But I don't think mass housing allows changes anything. Once the application is filed before the town, and if it goes through to approval, it's there regardless of what's happened, since it was approved.
Okay, so the plan includes adding length to the stream, plantings, retaining wall with 2-foot footings, the fence, not on my side of the property, but maybe. Who's responsible for the maintenance of that once the units are all sold? Because obviously the unit owners aren't responsible for the upkeep of the retaining wall or the stream or the fence that you're going to install around the stream.
There's a homeowners association, and so the unit owners are out part of a homeowners association, and that association is in charge of maintaining the property in accordance with all permits that are issued. So that's how, just like other condos might be maintained with a homeowner association, it's the same here.
So they pay a membership fee, and their membership fee has to cover maintenance of these items?
I'm not sure of the exact structure of the association, but generally speaking, yes.
Okay. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. When I moved to this town, they were fighting this project. And
Could you give us your name and address and speak up a little bit just so that everybody else can hear you?
she didn't give her name and address.
Okay, then your name is fine. It's
Alyssa.
fine.
Huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
she did, yeah, so.
Yeah, my name's Alyssa. And I don't live in that general area, but
that's fine.
I live off of Union Street.
Oh, that's great.
No, I was just saying that when I first moved here, I saw the signs everywhere about stopping this project. Okay, now that was probably maybe like 10 years back, 7 years back, I don't know, somewhere around that point. So why is it back again?
So there was definitely some opposition to the project in town, and that was definitely, I think, understood through the ZBA process. But the ZBA did issue a permit for the project, and
When was that?
And there was a challenge to that permit, but the court found that challenge was had no standing.
When was that?
2 to 3 years ago. Okay. Somewhere around there. So that permit is in place, and so this is just another permit that's part of this project, just because this project does have some unique proposed activities, and so therefore we trigger MIPA going before MIPA to ensure that we don't have environmental impacts, and so that's why we're before them.
Okay, so they are determining that there's not going to be any environmental impacts?
That's part of MIPA's review, and that's why MIPA wants to hear from the public, so that way they
And what
can.
does that have to do with the stream?
It has to do with the stream. So
Okay.
MIPA reviews the whole project as a whole, but the key reason before MIPA is because of the stream, the fact that we're shifting it and making it longer.
Okay. Does this have anything to do with that renewal, downtown renewal?
Say that again?
Does this have anything to do with that renewal that they were talking about over the summer around there, about just renovating the whole downtown area? Is this thing?
No.
Does this have
This is
anything to do with
private.
that?
This is a private proposed project.
All right, so this project is going to go through, and these are the improvements that they're.
These are the projects that are being proposed for MIPA. I can't speak for MIPA. So, but we do feel as a project team that this project is approvable by MIPA and Mass DEP. But we have to work through one permit at a time.
Yeah, whatever you're saying there, that's I understand. But I mean, there's already condos everywhere. I mean, there's one on 140. There's one over near Forge Park. There are these huge monstrous things, And I don't think they even filled those up. So they're gonna make another one? I mean, does this make any sense to anybody? I mean, it doesn't. Every time I talk to somebody, they say, these things are ugly, they're disgusting, they're changing the whole atmosphere of the town. But yet, they're still coming up from God knows where.
These are just two-story buildings. They're they're
40
tall
units.
apartment buildings. So
40 units, right?
32 units.
32 units, okay.
32 units.
It's
So-
not like somebody's house.
So I mean, I can't speak to, I mean, all I know is that there was definitely a need for affordable housing in the town of Franklin when it was filed with the ZBA, because Mass Housing allowed the project to proceed with ZBA. So when this project was proposed, we had to go to Mass Housing and ask Mass Housing, is Franklin in need of affordable housing under the 40B?
These are supposed to be affordable housing?
It's part of the 40B affordable housing. There's affordable units in the development.
How much is gonna be affordable housing?
That's determined by the state. So I can't speak to that right off the bat. That's a Mouse Housing question. They're the ones who actually control the affordable housing pricing and sales and stuff like that. It's a fairly detailed process because Mass Housing wants to ensure that these go to people who actually need them.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But this whole area over here, now, this is the, where is it going to be?
What are you looking for?
When's the units gonna be?
So the units are those rectangles with the circle numbers. So. Yep. So yeah, so you can see, so here, let me just, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna add an arrow to the screen so you can see it better. So these are the units here, so you have units right here, you have units here, units here, there's units here, 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 over here, and then there's units over here. So,
Now, where's Fletcher Field and all this, right?
Fletcher Field is right down here, yep.
So is this the stream area right here?
So yeah, this is,
Sorry, I came
no,
late.
no, that's totally fine. These are great questions. So the new stream will start right here, and it comes down here, and it curves here, then runs down here, and then has this nice
Okay, so now
curve
is
here
this
to
the,
here.
that buffer that has like woods right there? Is that what this is?
I'm sorry. There are woods in here right now because the existing stream is right here.
Oh, okay.
It's right in here.
Thank you.
No, those are good questions. Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Katie Siemens. I'm a resident of Franklin, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Franklin Girls Softball Association. I have a couple questions for you, which I'd really appreciate your information on, and then I'd like to just read a statement representing our organization.
Okay.
So one question for you is roughly how many trees are going to be taken down in this proposal? I see a few up there that you're going to have.
We never did any type of tree survey to determine the number of trees that are coming down, so that's the best that I can do for that question.
Okay. And then the other question I have for you is how many visitor parking spaces are you planning on?
Let me just get to a different plan. Visitor parking is right here. I think there's 21 here, and then there's 12 over here. I think that's,
Okay, so
Yeah.
roughly one per unit.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So as I mentioned, we're here representing the Board of Directors for the Franklin Girls Softball Association. After conducting our own research and speaking with numerous families and individuals, the Franklin Girls Softball Association is in firm opposition to the proposed Madalene Village project. As you are aware, Pisani and Fletcher Fields are directly adjacent to a substantial portion of the project's proposed location. The entire complex is a highly populated recreational area with a consistently large number of children and families regularly using the fields and playgrounds throughout the year. This area already faces significant challenges with parking and traffic. If this project were to be approved, there would be even less parking available and traffic at pedestrian crossings would increase. Additionally, the project would likely involve underground utility work on Peck Street, which could extend beyond the site plan provided, creating even more problems for traffic and pedestrians along Peck Street. This would cause significant safety concerns for families having to park further from the fields and cross busier roads. It's already a concern right now. Logistically, with the loss of trees, lights at Pisani could be a significant nuisance for nearby residents. There could be an increase in neighbor complaints. Headlights from cars leaving the Madalene project will be facing the Pisani softball fields, which can impact players during games. We have many weeknight games that take place in the evening. The size of this proposed development is overwhelming for the proposed site and would disrupt wetlands. The project proposes cutting down trees and increasing the impervious area of the site. The Climate Resilience Report from this past September notes high exposure to and risk for extreme precipitation and flooding, which supports our significant concerns about flooding and drainage issues for our fields. The report also cites high exposure to and risk for extreme heat, which will be worsened with the removal of the trees. For these reasons, the FGSA Board of Directors urges the rejection of this project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And if you want those comments, I'd encourage you to submit those comments directly to MIPA, just so that way they have them in writing.
Yes.
That's the best. Great.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Jeff Klug. My partner and I moved to Franklin, 139 Cottage Street, about a year ago. I can point out my house on this map.
Yeah, sure. So Cottage Street is to the, up here?
This is the proposed entrance.
Right here, yes.
Stairs?
Yep.
This is my house.
So, this, number 142?
No.
130?
Across the street.
Oh, you're across the street. Ah, okay, over here.
Right here.
Okay.
We are in firm opposition to this project. When you talk about minimal impact, you're speaking statistically. I'd like to put a face to a statistic. I'd also like to ask who benefits from this project. The way we view it, the only winners are the developers, the property sellers, at the expense of the many of us existing residents. I'd respectfully submit we all pay the price for noise pollution, light pollution, traffic pollution, not to mention the destruction of trees and wildlife. I also ask, do we really need less wildlife and trees right now? Regarding traffic, I believe I saw in the application that it indicates at present 0, which would be increased to roughly 270 cars per day.
I don't have that number right off the top of my head. All I know is, I mean, the traffic was studied by Stantec. Stantec was hired by the Franklin Zoning Board of Appeals. And
Well-
the purpose of that review by Stantec was to ensure, to help the Franklin Zoning Board of Appeals understand whether or not there were going to be significant traffic impacts. And it
Who
was
defines
determined.
significant?
I don't know what's that would be up to that's the Stantec and the ZBA question. I can't. That was the purpose. We submitted the data of what was happening. Stantec was required to review that and give the ZBA recommendations on that, and that's what happened. So that's what I know, and the fact that and the fact that Stantec looked at it. Stantec's a very reputable company. They were they're independent. They were hired by the town of Franklin to do stuff to protect the town of Franklin.
Okay. So currently, the application says 0 trips in and out, egress, exit, to and from.
Correct, because there's no
Correct.
development. Yes.
And the application also indicated, I believe it's 269 additional trips would be in play. So let me tell you, Cottage Street's a very busy street. Just this morning at 8 a.m., I counted 20 cars within 1 minute as I walked from one end of Cottage Street to the commuter rail. So I'll leave it to the experts to determine the actual volume of existing traffic plus the additional 269. I'd also ask, are the developers truly motivated to create affordable housing? By my read, I believe the Franklin has already achieved the affordable housing limit or criteria by the state 4 years ago. So I asked, just because they can, doesn't mean they should. I'd also like to ask, what is the plan to mitigate any light pollution, noise pollution from the area? And finally, I would like to ask, what is the benefit to the residents already living on Franklin Street from an environmental point of view?
So let me just start with, so Mass Housing was the one who reviewed the original application to determine if the 40B was needed in Franklin.
It was then, but it's not now. Is that correct?
I don't know that answer. So the question was does Franklin already have their 10%?
Yes. So that goes to my question. Just because they can build doesn't mean they should.
This was approved prior to Franklin meeting their threshold and was built into
The numbers.
the numbers.
Yes. So the reason why Franklin meets the 40B numbers is because Mass Housing knows this project is in the queue for those numbers. So I think that's part of it. So and the benefit of this project is to provide affordable housing in the town of Franklin when it's very difficult to find affordable housing in the area.
What's the
And
environment?
So that was the purpose of the 40B law. That's why it was passed. That's why it was brought to the voters. The voters approved it again. Because the voters in the state of Massachusetts said that we want affordable housing in the towns, and that's all through Mass Housing.
So for the 32 units, the folks who occupy those 32 units, the developers and the sellers of the property, what's the positive environmental impact for the rest of us?
So the existing stream is clearly a degraded, constructed channel. It's a straight line which creates higher velocity. It's armored. It's heavily invasive on the banks. And so our goal in this project is to enhance and provide a stream that has higher functions and values than under the existing conditions. We create a longer linear feet, which provides more wildlife habitat. We provide food sources through the plantings that we have proposed. We have the native trees that are along the entire bank. That's the environmental benefit of this project. Rather than leaving this ditch in its degraded condition that it's in, we feel that this project provides a cleaner source of resource areas on the property, and therefore it's downgrading areas because the resource area upgrading is actually improved.
One last question, and I'll submit all of these online as well. What is the financial, environmental, positive benefit that folks who are not living in this complex will realize?
So the applicant has put a lot of money into the Streamer Lake relocation. It's not a cheap proposal. The original proposal was to pipe the entire stream. And that was because it's expensive to relocate it, to build it right, to build it carefully, to have it supervised correctly. But that's what we came up with.
Is there a problem with the stream as it is?
In its current conditions, it's not a natural stream. So in my opinion, it's degraded, and it should be improved. And the best way to improve it is to recreate the banks with natural vegetation and to create a more sinuous nature of the stream, and that's what we do.
And is there, one last question, what is the light impact on the area, and what is the developer willing to do to take responsibility for streetscape, sidewalk, et cetera, on either side of the development?
So I think from a lighting standpoint, it's pretty minimal.
It's minimal. I think we have post lights in front of homes.
Yeah.
No.
I think yeah. So we minimized, I think, lighting to a pretty high standard, and since we're not putting tall lights up like your street lights. These are shorter lights to minimize the height of the lighting itself.
There's a way to create affordable housing in Franklin. I just don't think this is the way to do it. There's plenty of houses that I look around and think, if a developer were really serious, they could purchase that, and that could be affordable housing sprinkled throughout Franklin. So.
Yeah. We'll get to you, ma'am, in a moment.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure. So if you have a question, ma'am, please feel free to come up, just so that way everybody can hear you.
How you doing?
Good.
Patty Mazzadri, 39 Peck Street. 30 years. My husband's been a resident his whole life. We inherited our home, grandmother's home. We've been there.
Very neat.
Put in a pool probably 15 years ago. The Conservation Committee, State Conservation Committee, made me stand in this brook to measure, to put a built-in pool in. It literally took me 8 months to get them to approve us to put this pool in. And, you know, I literally stood in it for the lady. I held her tape measure. I did everything she wanted me to do. You know, we're good residents of Franklin. We keep up the property.
Yeah.
You know, the thing here is you have up the street of Peck Street, you take a right. We have affordable housing up there. Do
Okay.
we not? On North Park Street. Now, if you haven't, or you haven't, taken a ride through there and taken a look around at what it looks like, it's not quite the look of what Peck Street is looking like. It's pretty run down. So if that's what we're looking forward to in my backyard, or our backyards, I'm not looking forward to it. So you'll probably see a for sale sign on my house, and many of us at that point, okay? Secondly, if you're on Peck Street from, let's say, April to September, a fire truck cannot get down the street on Peck Street, okay? Now, if you're on Wachusett Street, it's the same thing because boys' baseball is on the other side of the street, and they park on that side of the street also, up and down the street. They know, I'm not bashing softball people or anything like that, but parents literally drop their kids off and park on the other side of the road, which you shouldn't, to drop their children off. And coaches, and everybody does. If somebody needs assistance in your community that you're trying to build, how is a fire truck or an ambulance or a hooking ladder or any kind of trucks like that gonna get in that complex to save a life if there's traffic?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand the question.
So when
It's a-
you
it's-
sit
it's a-
here
it's-
and
it's a-
tell
it's-
me
it's a
that
valid
you
question.
had a service come in and do a road analysis, what did they do it in the winter? Did listen,
Okay,
I'm home every day.
That's a great question,
Yes,
and
it
I will
is.
answer it.
You're gonna answer
So,
it.
yeah, so do you want me to
But I want you to answer it after I'm finished.
That's understood. Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to let you know that I will answer the question.
Yes, thank you, thank you. You need to also understand that there is, right now, on Peck Street, a lot of trouble happening on the fields there, if no one has noticed, okay? You can't get a police officer to come and respond to somebody that is hurt on those fields. Kids are jumping off the dugouts. No one responds to any of that. Do we have enough police and fire community to get to these units or to get to these people? Has anybody thought about that? Secondly, now that I'm thinking about it, to the woman over here, hi. Do you want to know what this is truly about? This is about money. Okay? It's about greed. It's about somebody who's trying to sell a piece of property to make a buck and get rid of it. Now, if you take a look at this property, Renee and Tom O'Neill live right next to the brook. The house to the right of it used to be a little horse and carriage house. And it's a rental property. That, let me tell you something, 10, 15 families have been in and out of that place causing trouble, low housing, trouble, from the time it's been rented. And we, as residents, have had to put up with it in our neighborhood. Do you understand? So if you're gonna bring in your low housing into the back part of this, we're gonna have to put up with that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand the question.
All right, good. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's all about the person selling the property. That's what it's about. It's about money. And let me tell you something. I'm a business owner in town, and I know everybody, and I hear everything, what's going on in this town, okay? This gentleman lives at the top of our street. It is a very nice neighborhood, is it not? We love it. And you love your... Surely. And you know what? I love it too. My kids are now grown up and gone, and my husband and I, we've done a lot of work to our home to stay there. But if I could put up a 50-foot fence right now with what you're doing, I would do it, okay? Mr. D'Angelo has done $1 million 1 million jobs to Fletcher Field to keep the property up. And now you're going to bring it, all this trouble to these fields from your low housing coming in, okay?
I understand the question, so
Okay.
I'm just
So-
waiting for you to finish.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think that you've really thought about finding someplace else to build something like this. You're literally sneaking this into a side street of a neighborhood just so you can make a buck. You hearing me? Just so they can sell their money, okay? Make their money back, okay? But they're not thinking about us. They don't care. They don't care about us in our neighborhood and what we've done and what we've done to our homes. It's terrible. All right? Are there going to be sidewalks?
Yes, there will be sidewalks.
There will be sidewalks.
Yes.
Right. How, it will be a big enough sidewalk for somebody who has handicap, who can have a wheelchair?
Yep. I believe they're ADA compliant. They're ADA
Okay,
compliant.
and what if you don't lease them all out? Say your low housing people can't afford it because, I mean, look what's happening to our world nowadays. We can't even afford groceries. And you're telling somebody that low housing is going to be able to afford something that you're going to put up? It's crazy. Literally crazy. You know? I mean, I don't know what your thinking is in this process. I do. I'm sorry, say it, sir, and I'm sorry that you're probably stuck in the middle of it because she just wants to make a buck. But you know what I'm saying? She's just trying to sell the property. You know? That's all there is to it. It's all about money. Okay? And the neighbors are going to hurt from it. That's it. That's why we're here today.
Yeah.
And a lot of people couldn't be here today because we love our neighborhood. You know? And I think that 20 cars is an underestimate. Let me tell you the speed limit they go down Peck Street. Woo! I swear to God, I think they do 60 down that road. I mean, even with the kids playing softball, I'm so afraid that they're going to run out catching their mother off the street. People from the baseball field, they park up and down the street. They park all the way up Winter Street. Sir, I don't know if do you live in Franklin?
I don't, but I've driven around. I mean, I want to answer the questions, but there's a lot of questions here, and so I'm trying to figure out where you're going to land so I can start going through them, because I think there's some things that need to be understood.
I understand, and I'm sorry if I'm all over the map, but
No, it's fine.
you know what? I'm just a very passionate resident of my neighborhood and
I totally understand that.
in the town of Franklin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a great place to live, don't get me wrong, but I think this could be in a whole other different area of Franklin. I don't think, go down to Phelan's farm and build your development, because I think she owns that property too, correct? Go down there and dig it. Find another piece of property. For 30, is it really worth 32 houses? I mean, there's other property, It's crazy.
I understand your concerns. So, do you want me to start answering the questions? Okay, so let's start back with Peck Street. So, I can't control the parking that the public does on Peck Street. It's a public street. If there's an issue with parking, that would be something that the town would need to address. And from a standpoint of access, it sounds like that's something that the town may need to address in the sense of signage or speed bumps. I don't know. But I mean, as a resident, if I had those same concerns, I think those are valid concerns. But those are concerns that need to be brought to the town now. They don't necessarily involve this project. The access. This project has 2 points of access. There's access off Cottage Street and Peck Street. So I believe the fire access would be coming directly off Cottage Street because that's the direction I believe the fire department comes from. So they would come in the Cottage Street entrance and get to all the units. So even if Peck Street was blocked, the site still has emergency access for fire and police. And I know that those departments are heavily involved when the ZBA has a permit like this because public safety is the #1 priority. And I think we as a team believe that as well. And so I don't think we believe that this project is an impact to the public safety. If it was, we'd have a problem. But we don't think there is because we've done the analysis. Now, the traffic studies, those are done per certain standards. There's high standards for traffic study of when you do it, how you do it, how you collect that data and sort that data. And that data was all given to Stantec. So it wasn't just us saying this is what the impacts are going to be for traffic. Stantec looked at those impacts, and that's what the ZBA wanted. They wanted Stantec to look at those impacts and say, do we have a problem here or not? And the conclusion was the increase is minimal to the area. And so, and I know traffic studies. I've taken I've taken traffic courses. I've participated in traffic studies. So I know what goes into it. It's not easy. It's not cheap. But the process was gone through because we wanted to make sure there weren't impacts. So from a standpoint of aesthetics, I think you can't judge an older affordable housing place. Again, I don't know the place itself. This is I think it'd be a really nice development. Rich does really good work. He makes these units look like they're going to fit. He wants these to fit into the neighborhood because he wants people who live in this neighborhood to feel like they're part of the community itself. And I think it's a shame to say that the state is pricing people out of homes. That's the purpose of the 40B. I am not in control of 40B. I may have my own issues with 40B, but overall, I think it's generally a good idea. And so I think from mass housing standpoint, they believe this project is suitable housing for the town of Franklin, provide additional affordable housing, and that it's needed. And so I think it's valuable for us to give those who have a hard time finding a house the opportunity to live in the neighborhood that we get to enjoy.
I would be curious to know the time that the survey was done on the parking.
I don't know what time it was done. The ZBA would have those records, but they're very particular about when they do the data collection because they know if you can pick and choose the data or you can pick it when it's the worst, and they're very careful to make sure that they don't just pick and choose. They want to make sure they get the worst.
Well, I think
traffic.
As residents, we should be aware when they did it. Because I live on Peck Street and I've never seen anybody do anything on that street.
I can honestly say that it was done because I've seen the Stantec reports that were done, and so I know it was done, and the ZBA has that data. I know this was several years ago, so it's hard for people to remember what was actually done at those meetings, but it was done. Could you come into the mic just so that everybody can hear you?
Thank you.
I just.
What about the funeral home that's over there? I know that there's a funeral home.
Oh yeah, they still park on the opposite side of the road.
The question was what about the funeral home? So where is the funeral home on the site? I'm sorry, I didn't notice that when I've been around the area.
It's on Cottage Street.
It's on Cottage Street. So I mean that's a separate issue. I mean what the funeral home does or impacts is a separate issue from what's being proposed here. So I mean if the funeral home has a parking issue, I can't fix that problem. But I think from what we have proposed here, we have a area of parking that works for our street.
Isn't that part of the traffic study?
So part of the traffic study. So I would suspect that they would look when they do traffic study, you drive around to see what's in the area, what you have for businesses.
Is it or isn't it part of the traffic study?
I can't answer that for certain, but
Yeah, if you can't answer our questions.
So the traffic study, sir, was part of the ZBA application. So I can't speak to what Stantec reviewed, but I know they looked at the traffic study in this neighborhood very closely, and that was part of the ZBA's decision. So that's what we know, is that the ZBA looked at this closely with Stantec, and that Stantec, the ZBA wouldn't have issued a permit if there was a problem with traffic here.
I don't think they did a sufficient job, and I think that you're not providing us the correct information we want to hear.
Again, if you need the traffic study information, it's public information. It's available in the town hall. So that if that's something you need, and if you need the traffic study, I can send me an email and I'll send you the studies by Stantec if you want to see them. But those were all through the ZBA.
I think it's something you should have had for us tonight. I think that all the information that you're trying to get approved, push through, I don't think that you're being fully informative to us as residents of Franklin. I'm sorry.
That information was already provided to the residents of Franklin's ZBA process.
And I have another question for you.
If you want information,
why weren't any of
us
us residents notified of this meeting this evening?
So the MIPA process does not require that we notify butters, but it does require this. We posted legal ads. The Environmental Monitor is a well-known system in Massachusetts that's been around for a long, long time about projects, and we posted posters in the library and around the town about these meetings.
Was there one in this library? So unless if I didn't come to the library all the time, I wouldn't know that it was here, correct?
That's correct. But again, this is
Because I'm a business owner,
Yeah.
I'm right in the center of town, you could have put one in my window.
Well, again, we did try to figure out where we could post.
Was there one at the town hall?
There was one at the town hall, yes. Yeah.
And quite a few of the local businesses, when I went around, said, no, it's not, we don't have a bulletin board, a lot of the food
And
market.
what businesses did you walk into, my dear?
The Y Market was one, and then the Shaws and several businesses.
So that's not your downtown area where all this is going to be taking place, where all the residents would be?
We tried our best to reach.
Just a raise of hands, how many people were notified of this? Did anybody know, unless we all, just one or two, maybe three?
Well, again,
So it would have been a pretty empty room tonight, wouldn't it?
Again, it's amazing
Yeah.
how word of mouth really helps.
Right.
But at the same time,
Sure.
there's certain parameters and things that we're given, and we work with those things. And so we tried our best. Honestly, I'm not trying to hide this project from anybody. in
That's
the town
how
of
we
Franklin.
felt. Thank you.
So, thank you. Any other questions?
Hi. So I have a couple of questions. You talked about this project being included in our percentage for 40Bs in town, but you also talked about the number of units not being allocated yet. So I'm trying to get some clarification as how it can be included in that percentage if we haven't determined how many units are going to be part of the 40B.
There is a set limit to the number of units already that have to be affordable. They're already set. That's according to that's required by mass housing.
Oh, okay, because someone had asked and you said that you didn't know how many units.
I don't think that was that. That may not have been the specific question. So again, and my apologies if I misspoke early on. But there is a set number of affordable housing units that are already designated, and that's because of mass housing requirements.
Okay, and what is that number?
In this project, yes, it's 8.
Okay, so 8 of the units are designated, and so 8 of the 32 are
Correct.
designated 40B.
Correct.
Okay. So then the other piece is you said that that's in the percentage. So you understand that percentage far exceeds the 10% at this point?
I understand that,
Okay.
and so mass housing understands that. But again, they can't always control how projects get approved.
No,
and
I just wanted to
things.
clarify
Yep.
because I don't think that you were on point when you talked about that earlier. So the other piece that we talked about was the relocation of the wetlands. So you're relocating that little piece.
So there's a small piece of wetlands.
And where is that moving to?
It's going to over here in this corner.
So what does that do to your abutters who are now going to be within wetland proximity that they weren't when they had their original properties?
So there's already a buffer zone that goes through this whole area already from the stream. So I think from a standpoint of
But that relocation
buffer zone,
that relocation does not abut the already existing stream. You're going in the corner with it.
it abuts the new stream. That's the purpose of it. The location is to
Yeah,
it
the new
abuts
stream, but now it's putting wetland restrictions on properties that didn't have wetland restrictions before.
I'm not sure of what wetlands restrictions you're referring to. So
Well,
I can't.
I would have to, so for example, if I went and wanted to do something to my property, depending on where the zoning was for the wetlands, I would have to go to the conservation and put a plan in place, and they would have to approve it. That would not be the case now with these corner units because you're moving the wetland piece over there. So I just want to know, what are those implications for those people that are now going to be closer to that wetland reallocation that you're moving?
So I believe, just to make sure,
Sure.
you are.
It's not about me. I'm just asking general questions.
I know, but I just want to make sure I understand where you are. So this is you, right? I believe you're Deanne.
I am.
This one?
That is me.
Yes, so you're. I mean, so so let's just go to the existing conditions plan. So this is the buffer zone right here.
Mm-hmm.
Line of buffer zone. So the property that you have is already in the buffer zone itself to the stream. So the relocation of the stream is not going to change the proximity. So
Well, the other two, though. What about the other two?
the other two properties here.
Yeah. See all those D'Angelos?
Yeah. So there would be a change in the buffer zone because of the way the wetlands are proposed.
Right. So that's what I'm asking. What's that impact?
So I mean, it depends on the Franklin Conservation Commission. I can't speak for the commission itself. I doubt. I think the commission would definitely understand any concerns that came if there was a change.
The same
in the
commission
wetlands.
that rejected this project?
Correct. The commission.
Oh, okay. All right, no, I just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks. And then you talked about impact after construction. So you said that there would be some minimal, in your opinion, minimal disruption during the construction phase, and that after construction there would be no impact. So how do you ensure that there's going to be no residual to all of this happening?
So that's in regards to what, so we look at all the different parameters. So from the traffic study, which we've talked about,
Yeah, I'm not worried about the traffic study, more so the volume of water.
From a stormwater standpoint, so Beta was a private stormwater consultant that was hired by the Franklin Conservation Commission.
Okay.
And if you review their letters on the stormwater design for this project, you will see that their last letter, almost every single comment was addressed. The only ones that were outstanding were questions for the commission to say, do you want to condition this, or does the town need to condition this? That was it. From a stormwater compliance standpoint, Beta looked at the stormwater studies and they said it meets the DEP stormwater standards. So that was the intent. The project does meet it, and Beta looked at it as well, and that was the purpose of their review.
Okay. I think, too, just to kind of go back to ZBA, you talked about emergency agencies, fire, police. I think it's important to note that they all sent in letters of concern when this project was originally approved. So I know that you kind of alluded to the fact that it wouldn't be an issue because there's 2 entrances. I think it's important to create context where that is, that they did write letters expressing concern about the volume. I had mentioned this during one of the calls that, I understand landowners have the right to do as they please with their property within the parameters of the property that you purchase. So for me, it's not about stopping a project, it's about managing a reasonable project within the scope of the land that's there. So that's kind of one of my things. I mentioned it when I called in earlier. Is there any consideration for a different proposal that would not be so impactful to the surrounding neighbors? And was there a consideration given to expand our open space? Because much like 40Bs were an issue back in the day, our open space and recreational areas are also a concern in town. And this does abut a pretty big plot of land that is recreational. So I would say, was there any consideration given to maintaining the stream where it is and putting your housing around that stream, or contributing to the town in a meaningful way through the donation or purchase and sale to the town?
So the project did look at several alternatives, and the original project we proposed 40 units on this project originally. And the original proposal was just to pipe the entire stream, which from a water quality standpoint, the current stream does not provide water quality improvements to the water that's in it because of the nature that it's in right now. The proposal was just to pipe it, but that was decided that was a loss to the resource area values in the town of Franklin. So because of that, that's why we relocated the stream the way we did. And we think that relocation is the best way to maintain that resource area and also provide setbacks to the proposed development. I think it works best the way it's actually shown. Keeping it where it is would be very difficult from a project standpoint, and I don't think it improves the functions and values of the stream, which is our primary concern of the stream.
So you could not implement the same strategies you're using to relocate the stream to maintain the stream where it is and put sporadic housing around it to make it more conducive?
The layout that you would have wouldn't work. Yeah, it's too tight if the stream is where it is. So we looked at that. We looked at just leaving the stream where it was, and we had to cross the stream, which we didn't really want to do that either with the road. So our goal was to, well, if we move the stream over here, we don't have to cross the stream. We leave it as a continuous natural stream bed that's not really impacted by the project itself because of the way we designed it.
And the consideration for sale to the town for recreational use?
I don't know of what the town was looking for property. I can't speak for the town to know what the town's looking for or what they're looking to buy. So I mean, the land right now is pretty degraded because of the invasives and the trees and everything else in the artificial ditch. So if the town wanted the land, I think that the town should reach out to the owner about it. But I think that's
I was just inquiring about other alternatives at this point.
Yeah. I mean that I think if the town was interested, that there would be already a conversation already going on about that. So.
Okay. I think I asked my last question last time and you were unable to answer it, so I think that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No.
Hi.
Hello.
I just have one question for you regarding the stormwater report that was done, because I know the Conservation Commission didn't fully look at the stormwater, and you mentioned additional letters after that period had closed. Where would those be available?
Those letters are all in the Conservation Commission's records. Okay. So that the last letter that was issued by Beta was issued before the commission denied the project. So those letters are all part of the commission's record for the project.
Okay. Because
it's by Beta,
sure,
B-E-T-A.
B-E-T-A. Because from my recollection, when the Conservation Committee denied the project, there wasn't really a full consideration of the stormwater concerns.
Yeah, the denial was based on the concerns about the stream relocation. There was nothing in the denial that was focused on concerns about stormwater compliance.
But I remember from the discussion that they didn't really even get into it so much because they were denying it based on the stream relocation.
Yeah, that's up to the commission's discretion. If the commission didn't look into the stormwater, I'm sorry that they didn't, because that's part of what they should do, is they should look at it, or at least ask questions to Beta about anything that they know about. But I can't control what they look at. Sometimes they don't look at things that they should, and I feel bad for that, because I feel bad that the environment doesn't get looked at in some way. So again, I think the commission did look at this in regards to Beta looked at it, and Beta, as a design engineer, a professional engineer, they design these types of systems themselves, so they know how to make sure they work properly in accordance with the standards, and that was what the review was for.
Okay, but those letters would be with the
Conservation Commission. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Wayne Samarian, 204 Jordan Road, Chairman of the Recreation Advisory Board. We opposed this project from day one. We represent all of the youth groups in town, and we have a very serious concern about it, and unanimously opposed the project from day one. We feel they have a severe impact on Fletcher Field and Pizzini Field and area residents. The adjoining brook creates environmental concerns as well. I think my real problem with this is the planning board initially tried to imply that we approved this project. And for the record, we never approved it. We were opposed to it from day one, and we continue to oppose it. I did communicate with the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency regarding our concerns. Thank you.
Right, thank you for doing that. Are there any other comments or questions? Well, seeing none, thank you so much again for tonight's meeting. Again, if you need to reach out to MIPA, feel free to. They're a great agency. Jennifer is a great person to work with, and she'll be able to answer any of your questions that you may have. Again, the best way to contact her is her email here, jennifer.hughes, oops, my apologies, jennifer.hughes@mass.gov. You can also call her number. But the best way is to email those comments to her, and she welcomes all this there. Thank you so much.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors. Good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.